Okay, hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. If you don't already know, my name is Kendall, and today I'm going to be going over all of the books that I read in November.
Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing.
So the first book that I picked up in November was Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead by Elle Cosimano. This was probably one of my most anticipated books of this year. It didn't come out this year, I don't believe, but did it? I don't think it did. Oh no, it did come out this year. Sorry. So this one came out this year, but I just read the first Finley Donovan earlier this year, so I was very excited to get to this one. This one dealt a lot more with Finley's personal life, with her ex-husband, and how their relationship worked, and how her relationships with these two different guys are working out. You know, she has Julian, who is this younger guy, and he's a lawyer, and he's fun and a good time. And then she has Nick, who is a cop, and she has, you know, two kids to take care of. She's trying to write another book. So she has a lot going on her plate, and she's kind of trying to decipher between two different guys who are offering her two completely different lifestyles in a way. So I really liked getting more of the romance aspect in this one because I am a sucker for a good romance, but I also really enjoyed the backstory and what we were facing, or seeing Finley face, if you will. If you haven't read Finley Donovan, the first book, I recommend not watching past this point or skipping over the part where I'm talking about Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead, just so I don't spoil anything for the first one for you. But this book was really good with the aspect of, you know, somebody is out to get Finley's ex-husband. And, you know, she doesn't wish ill will towards him. He is still the father of her children. And she's trying to stop the person who is after him. And, you know, she's back with Vero, her babysitter, who is also struggling with some personal problems. And so you get to see more of their friendship come to life as well in this book, which I really enjoyed. So I loved this one, and I cannot wait for the third one to come out. The next few books I read were dealing with the Gilmore Girls readathon. So the first one that I picked up was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This book was amazing. I had no idea that cozy fantasy was even a genre, to be quite honest with you guys, and now I'm so glad that I know that it is. I know that Darling Desi recommended this book to a lot of people, and Olivia picked it up and she loved it. My friend Elizabeth, who lives in the state of Washington where Travis Baldree is from, or where he lives, I don't know, he's either from that area or lives there, and she got to even go to a signing, which is really cool. So I thought that that was just a neat aspect of this book, and it made her love it even more than she already did. So she's been recommending this book like crazy, and I can see why. We follow this orc named Vivien, I believe, but she goes by Viv, and she, you know, has been trained all of her life to hunt down people and kill them and, you know, get rid of the bad guys. And she doesn't want to do that anymore. She has found this new thing called coffee that nobody else knows about. And she decides to go to this little town, which I'm trying to remember, Thune, little town of Thune. And she starts to open this coffee shop. And, you know, it shows her building up her business, and she gets these amazing co-workers like Tangerine, who is a succubus. And, you know, you have Cal, who builds it for her. And it's just the best thing ever. She comes up with so many like little bitty things that you find in a coffee shop and a pastry shop that you wouldn't think people would know about, but it gives that element of cuteness to this. She also has Thimble, who cooks these pastries and makes up these amazing recipes for her to sell along with her coffee, which is just amazing, and I really enjoy that aspect. I think I love the characters in this book so much that I just want to hug all of them. And you do have kind of a love story between Tangerine and Viv as they're getting to know each other and, you know, work with each other and just be in each other's lives. So Cozy fantasy is a thing, you guys, and I'm here for it. So I will be checking out more that are like Legends and Lattes. This next one was also for the Gilmore Girls readathon, and it was The Wicked Deep by Shea Ernshaw. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started this book. I just knew that Olivia and Keisha both really loved it, and they know that I'm a big fan of young adult fantasy, so they told me that I needed to read it. And it's very dark and very gothic and atmospheric, which I completely love. If you give me any kind of young adult fantasy book that is gothic, I can assure you that I'm 99% gonna like it. So I already knew going into this one, and I had high expectations, and it did nothing but exceed them. So you have these sisters who are coming back every year, kind of like the Sanderson sisters do in Hocus Pocus. And it was so good because it was done so well. They inhabit the bodies of three other girls who already live on the island, and they drown boys each year to punish the town for what they did to them and how they killed them 200 years ago. So it's very atmospheric with that darkness, and they live on like a town that is surrounded by an ocean, and so you get those like coastal vibes, but the dark coastal vibes, if you know what I mean. So this one reminded me a lot, the atmosphere did, of House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig, which is one of my all-time favorite books ever. So I was very excited to get into that story, and it had a very unique love story as well with it, and I'm trying to remember their names. I know Bo is the name of the boy, Penny and Bo. Penny is, you know, Bo is from out of town, and he is coming into a town that he knows nothing about, and it was scary, and you are just kind of like clutching your fist hoping that he doesn't do anything stupid that's going to get him hurt. And, you know, you're trying to follow Penny because Penny can somehow sense the girls that are in the bodies. She knows, like, okay, this is Margaret, who was a witch 200 years ago, and she's in this girl's body because I can see her. And, you know, you're trying to figure out, how does she have these powers that nobody else does? And just the magical elements of, you know, possession over a body, or using powers to entrance boys, stuff like that. It was just very different than most fantasy books that I've read that are in the YA genre. So it was a good, like, refreshing breath of air, and it makes me want to get back into young adult fantasy so bad. I can't even stand it. So all three of those books were definitely a 5-star for me, and yeah, I had no complaints with any of them. So the next book that I read was the last book I read for the Gilmore Girl readathon, and it was Death by Dumpling by Vivien Chien. I'll put a picture of it up here. This is the first in a cozy mystery series of noodle shops, and I thought it was so freaking cute. I think I rated this one like a 4.5 stars because it was just the perfect cozy mystery. I don't know, these have always called to me just because of their titles, and I love the covers on these books. So I do know that there's 9 in the series if you do plan on reading them. I think the 9th one is supposed to come out either by the end of this year or next year, and I'm very excited to get more into these. They're also all on Kindle Unlimited, which is a big help if you aren't wanting to put, you know, another book on your shelf or spend money on another book. You have Kindle Unlimited that you can use and make great use of. So you're following our main character, Lena, and Lena lives in, you know, she is having to move back home, so she lives with her parents, and she works in their noodle restaurant, and she, you know, I think she's like a waitress. It doesn't really say. I think she just kind of does whatever they need her to do that day. So she works with her parents in there, and they basically have this little Asian market going on, and it's really cool. So all of these people are like a really big family, and then all of a sudden there's a death of the person who was running the whole show, and you're trying to find out who committed the murder. And the twists in this book were just crazy. I never saw them coming. There were a few twists that I did see, like I predicted who killed the man, and I predicted another twist, but I had no idea the way that things were going to unfold, and it just made it even better with how it did. So I had no complaints about that book. I think that they, you know, author Vivien Chien, she is Asian, so that was an Asian author that gave like Asian representation too, and I absolutely adored it. I am all about like Asian culture. You know, I love manga and I love animes, so anything where I can get to see kind of into how, you know, they run their shops or run their stores and stuff, I found it really, really interesting and intriguing. And I was like, does Vivien Chien have a background in working at a noodle shop? Because everything that she was putting about the noodle shop, even like the food, like talking about the descriptions of the food, it was literally the best. I could just picture every single thing in my mind, and I just want to go there. So I really enjoyed that book too, and I think that if you're looking for like a upbeat but twisted kind of mystery, cozy mystery, that one is definitely for you. The next book that I read was the graphic novel Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo and Danny Pendergast. This is in the Grishaverse, is part of the Shadow and Bone kind of world, and it was all about the Darkling and his backstory. It wasn't really, it's more of like an origin story, I think, is what it's supposed to be, because this is supposed to show like why he is the way that he is. And I think I've mentioned it on here before, but I am not a fan of the Darkling at all. The only thing I like about the Darkling is that Ben Barnes plays him in the show. But anything else that has to do with him, I'm just not here for it. I don't really like him as a character, so it's kind of hard for me to get into this book. I think I rated it a 4 stars though, because the illustrations were done really, really well. Show you some pictures. And the storyline was written great, and also the audiobook is done by Ben Barnes himself, so that just adds on to me absolutely loving Ben Barnes. But I do kind of get why the Darkling does some of the things that he does, and I understand it more now, and his personality more, and the way that he thinks. But still not a complete fan, you guys, so sorry to disappoint if that does, but this was definitely a really good read, and definitely a very good like palette cleanser from going to fall books to Christmas books, which is exactly what I did. So let's get on to my next few reads. The next one that I read was The Santa Suit by Mary Kay Andrews. This book was really small, and I was nervous about it because I know a lot of Christmas movies I don't really enjoy if they're like a Christmas romance movie or Hallmark movies. I mean, there are certain Hallmark movies that I really like, but a lot of them, if they're cringy and just kind of cliche, I don't really enjoy them. They have to have a certain aspect that other Christmas romance movies don't have, and that's kind of exactly what I got out of The Santa Suit. For some reason, for me, Christmas holiday romance books, they're just not the same as watching a movie because they just seem less cliche when you're reading them. I don't know the science behind that. I have no idea why. It's just how it is. But this one was really, really nice. So you have Ivy, who is moving out to this town with her dog, Pumpkin. And I love that his name, is it her name? Her? His? I don't remember. I think it's a girl. But she's moving out to this farmhouse. And, you know, the guy who sold her the house, he comes by a lot and helps her. But she ends up finding like a bunch of old things that this family left, and she finds this Santa suit that has a note inside of it that's from this little girl, and all she wanted was her dad to come back home from the war, and I think it said it was supposed to happen around the Vietnam War area. So she just sets out to kind of find out who this little girl is, if her dad ever came back, what happened to her family, and all of these different things. She ends up running into a bunch of people in this town, making a lot of friends, and even doing business with like a local candy shop, which I found very cute. And her, I think, he's not really a real estate agent. He's just the guy who sold her the house. I don't know if he owns it. I have no idea. I don't remember. But I just know that his name's Ezra, and they got along really, really well. And, you know, things start blossoming between them, and it was just really, really cute, and I enjoyed it so much. And it was the perfect, small, little, quick Christmas read to get me into the holiday spirit. So I'm ready for all the Christmas books now. I think I rated this one like a 4-star or 4.5, I don't remember. I really enjoyed it way more than I thought I did or thought I was going to. And the narrator for the audiobook did such a perfect job of just setting the mood. And the last book I read, I also read on my Kindle, so I'll put a picture up here, but it is A Cross Country Christmas by Courtney Walsh. This book was super duper cute. You have our main character, Lauren, and she lives in California, and she's trying to get to Illinois for Christmas because her brother's wife is pregnant and they're really close to having their baby. So he offers to have his best friend, who has been his childhood best friend, and she knows who he is and everything like that, to drive her to Illinois because he also lives out in California. So Will is the guy who has been her brother's best friend for forever. So he tells her that he's going to take her on a road trip and he's going to get her to Illinois, but it's going to take a week's time instead of 3 days because he wants to take this special round trip the long way to get back to Illinois. He stops at a bunch of places. Lauren is kind of just not in the Christmas spirit. She doesn't care for Christmas. She has a bad family background, and there's reasons why she doesn't enjoy the season, or holidays in general, basically. But she starts to learn more about Will. She does have a backstory with Will, and it's not the best backstory ever. And so there are little arguments that they have about things that they do not see eye to eye on. But this book was just so realistic. It gave you realistic problems that you don't have to like imagine. It's things that you have probably gone through yourself. And it was just a really, really good read. I really enjoyed the fact of Will not being, you know, not perfect. You know, sometimes romance authors build up these men to be perfect, but Will had flaws, and he was the type of guy who realized he had flaws, and he never gave himself the benefit of the doubt or thought that he could come back from these flaws. He's kind of one of those people who wants to self-punish himself, or he's the kind of person that wants to punish himself for what he's done in the past. And Lauren is helping him to see that he can come back from things, and she knows he's a different person as well. But the storyline in this one was so cute, and there is going to be a continuation, so it's going to be like a little mini series. I think it's just going to be a duology, but I'm not 100% sure. I just know that there will be a second book coming out next year, and I definitely want to pick it up, and I definitely want to pick up more books from Courtney Walsh because the way she writes was just phenomenal to me. So I did give that book 5 out of 5 stars, and I don't doubt that I'll be giving her other books high ratings as well. So that's all I read in November. I read 7 books, and it was a pretty successful reading month, if I do say so myself. So I cannot wait to get into December and see what I end up reading. It's just gonna be better from here. But thank you guys so much for joining me again, and I will see you guys in my next video.
They said, Saint Nick, what you got up in that bag? I got racks in my sack or in my bag.